I'm going to show you the base for some modular origami, which is very fairly versatile, and you can also add different styles to each other rather than just the same exact module to one. And there's many variations of this, and you can probably find a few on your own without my help. So I'll show you the base. First, do what is fairly typical. We're going to fold it diagonally in half, both ways, and then horizontally in half, both ways. Okay. Oh, excuse me. See, I'm used to just doing the normal thing for Froebel, or Froebel, I don't know how you say it. So in order to make it into a module, put all four corners to the center. Once you do this, you pretty much just flip it over and pretend this is a normal origami piece of paper, and you're going to make something of Froebel. So once again, you're going to do kind of what we did before, like this. Just fold towards the center. You don't have to let these corners stick out if you want to keep them under, but for some reason I just like to do those folds separately to make sure they're, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit neurotic or something, but I like to just do it like this. And then I like to put these two behind here. Now, you're going to find out later that these little corners become the tabs or flaps, which will go into a pocket. And it's not always, you know, you're not always going to need to do what I'm doing right now, where I'm putting them under. These are going to become, excuse me, they can become both flaps or pockets, depending on your choice, which makes it very flexible for you to do kind of whatever you want. It can become very useful. But I usually put two of them behind like this, because I sort of use the Shinobi model when I'm connecting these, and I like to have like two flaps on opposite ends and two pockets on the other opposite ends. So this is how I typically do it. But sometimes I leave all the flaps out and I connect it to a module that's just four pockets. You can do that. I could turn every one of these into a pocket if I want to. You'll see what I mean later on. Alright, and like you've seen me do before, I'm going to fold along here and along here. With the colors, it's much clearer. It's much easier to see. Alright, like that. And what's interesting about this is I basically done almost nothing on my own here. It's all just fold along here, and then fold along this one, and then turn it this way. And because this is thicker than a normal one, because I already tucked in the 4 corners and all that, and it's kind of doubling up the paper, I advise you to take your corners and just get them nice and clean and ready so they don't have problems folding later on. Just real fast. And then you're going to do what you've seen me do many times. I like to keep these out when I do it, but you're going to put this together like that. Okay? And there you go. And once again, you can fold these like this. If you want to make them pockets, you would just tuck this under here. If you want them as flaps, you leave them out, which is what I'm going to do. Most 90% of the time, this is how I do it. Unless I'm making something very, unusual and I, for some reason, would need it. Okay, and then you put it back here. Fold these 2 down like this. Fold these 2 down like this. And then, this is where you can begin. You can make anything that you're used to making, and if you look back here, you can see kind of how this is going to work. These will find another piece like this, and they'll go into this pocket right here. And later on, many of the pieces kind of lock it so it's more secure. There is maybe 1 or 2 I can think of that don't lock it. And it all depends on how you make it too. For things like cubes, you don't really need it to lock because it holds itself together very well. But if you were going to make a Shinobi, I think it's advisable to, Shinobi, like a 30-piece Shinobi. I forget what that's called, a dodecahedron or something. Then you definitely, it's better to use one that locks. All right. Here is another variation. As you can see, we always tend to put these down first. Like 4 little neat squares. You can do anything you want with. I don't know how many Froebel variations there are, but I've seen on YouTube, I think there's at least, it's infinite. Okay, after we've done that, I'm going to lift these up. And this is similar to a flower I made in one of my videos. Just open this up right here. And then move this over. Lift this up. Open this up. Flatten it again like a little kite. And then move the whole thing back like that. And that's 1 square done. And do it to the rest. If it doesn't feel like it's going to open, you can always tug on it a bit at the opening, get it to go down. And unfortunately, this paper I'm using actually, it's not all perfectly square. One packet was good and the other packet it wasn't. I don't know. I'm limited to, as far as suppliers here, I have to just buy one. I think I have between 2 brands I can choose from. And this was, well, I did go for the cheap one. But fortunately, that's one of the advantages to doing this kind of modular origami using like a Froebel design, is since at the beginning you fold the 4 corners inward, a lot of the imperfections can get kind of lost in there. It doesn't show as much if you were doing just a normal Froebel variation, if that makes any sense. Okay. Hopefully you're watching me do this enough times that it's very clear. Got one more here. Lift it up, 90 degrees. Open it up. And this. Yeah, right. Down like that. And then over. And we pretty much, this is the hard part's over. So now we got to just open these all up slowly. Try and reveal a little bit of the contrasting white. So get your finger in there. There we go. This. And open this up. And there you go. Open. That's about what we wanted, like that. Try to make sure it's all smooth inside so that it doesn't, because when you open these things up, they don't flatten like you want them to. So you want to make sure you poke your finger around and get it about like that. I think that's just about right. Do it to all other four, and you will be done. Well, I mean, except that you're going to have to make 30 or so if you want to create a globe. Only 6 if you want to make a cube. Okay. There we go. Go. See, you see me putting my fingers right into the corners. Make sure it all comes out nicely. Okay, so we got that, and then, as usual, just because I like to do it, I'm going to lift these, what's remaining below, up, partly to make it look a little sharper, and also because it's going to help lock it. Anytime I don't adjust these, you could technically still use them as modules. But then you got to think about how the structure is going to hold everything together. Like a cube holds itself together fairly well, but other things, it would be so frustrating I wouldn't even want to bother. But I suppose you could try as a challenge if you want. For me, it's just easier to do this. And there's another thing you can do too to lock these, which I might show in another video, but you can actually turn them downward rather than up. But that's can also make it a little bit, I mean, hard to take apart if you want to, you know, use the modules for something else. So in some ways, I would only do that if you're really going for a certain look. Like if you don't like these little points pointing up, you can hide them underneath and it'll still lock. But once you lock it, you're done. And you also, there's a move you would want to do before that, long before we get to this point, if you're going to do that so that the creases are already there. Okay, so that's the end of this specific variation. I hope you enjoyed that, and make about 30 more. Sure, Redker.